Kia ora koutou. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Progress in Practice by the team from Go Well Consulting. In this episode, I am talking to Jacob Faull, the co-founder and owner of Nature Baby, a New Zealand-based children's clothing label. Jacob and his wife Georgia founded Nature Baby after the birth of their first child about 25 years ago because they struggled to find organic and natural children's clothes. They now have 2 stores in Auckland, 1 in Wellington, 1 in Sydney, and 2 more set to be open in Sydney within the next month. They also have more than 80 stockists across Aotearoa, Australia and the United States. As well as manufacturing children's clothes for newborns up to 6-year-olds, they also produce bedding, blankets and skin care and some nursery furniture such as cots, etc. They also stock some kids' toys, books and other baby essentials by brands whose values they align with. For their clothing items, they use certified organic cotton from India and ZQ certified merino from Australasia. They work predominantly with manufacturers in India, who some of them they have worked with from the very beginning. They go to India annually to maintain those relationships and make sure they have a really good understanding of the challenges that their suppliers are facing. Nature Baby provide a heap more information on their business, their suppliers and their materials on their website. So I highly encourage you to take a look at their website and how they are communicating their sustainability story. It's a really good example. In this episode, we talked to Jacob about Nature Baby's take-back program that they call Worn Again, and we get into the details of how it came about, some of the key challenges they've faced along the way and the impacts that it's had on the business. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode where we're going to talk about the Reworn initiative that Nature Baby have been running for a period of time. You're going to tell us. So can you start by just telling me what your progress in practice is, what Reworn is?
Well, our Reworn pilot campaign, which we're calling Worn Again, is this practice where we're taking back pre-loved clothes, pre-loved Nature Baby clothes, and we are sorting those, getting that in a condition to then resell. So it's a circular program where we're starting off with high quality organic garments made out of organic cotton and organic merino, and then we are selling them to our customers and then encouraging them to bring them back in store to then use as a credit on a next purchase while we take care of those pre-loved garments and sell them again.
Amazing. So just to clarify, Worn Again, sorry, first to get the name right, and secondly, it's just for the clothing, because you obviously also manufacture some bedding and some other products, and you also sell some other branded products. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
so this is just
it's also bedding as well. Sorry, I should have said that. Any soft organic fiber product. We have a skincare range that we are refilling some of them for, so being circular around that. And then we have wooden furniture, which we're looking to bring into the range, into the pilot scheme as well. We're just trying to navigate, which would be good to dig into, how circular programs can work.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. All right, can you tell me then now the journey that you've been on to bring Worn Again to market? For those who don't know, Jacob or Nature Baby and Go Well Consulting working together for 5 or more years, I think, and we helped you with a sustainability strategy many years ago, and we talked about this back then. But I'd really love you to sort of just detail the journey that you've been on from first idea through to the testing, and share some of the obstacles you've come across and how you kind of navigated those to get it to where it is today.
Yeah, well, we take a very simplistic approach. We always had this idea that we're making products to the highest quality, and then we understood our market and that they were only really using these garments for 3 months to a year maximum. And we were getting a lot of anecdotal feedback that these garments were being beautifully worn and passed on up to about 8 times. I remember meeting a friend of mine who was a mother. She's got 3 children. She had used the same garment for her first 2 children, and then it went out to another 5 people, and then it eventually came back to their 3rd child. And I was like, I can't quite believe it. This is amazing. We'd never really focused on that aspect, but we knew it happened. And then so we decided to do some more research, and we found that a lot of stories like that were coming up. And it comes back to a really boring but interesting fiber fact that we discovered along the way, and that the way we make, where our manufacturers were using the top 20% of organic fibers to then weave into the spin into the yarn and to knit into the product, which meant that it was a really soft but durable fabric, because you've got long fibers interconnecting into each other. Whereas in kind of modern and contemporary fast fashion products, they will use all sorts of fibers that maybe don't necessarily have the integrity from a structural position, not even ethical. And it just means they don't last as long. So really by accident, but by design, we ended up with a product that was really durable. And so we thought this is kind of a practical business decision that aligns with our ethics as a business to deliver the best for a baby, that now can be used again and again. And we would prefer to sell more secondhand organic, which is even more sustainable than selling first-hand organic. Sell first, new, of course, as much as possible. But if we could get as much of that secondary market baby wear back into the cycle, it would just be amazing for Nature Baby, because we could keep on continuing to put that into the ecosystem. Amazing for parents, because they could then buy more deeply into Nature Baby new, knowing that they can get money back for credit to spend on new again, or to spend on pre-loved as well. And so it became just a very logical, virtuous scenario, where if you're making in the best way for a market and communicating and collaborating with customers to bring that back in, it just keeps going round and round. And that's the idea. And we're only part way on that journey, but that's that was our belief.
So we'll come back to the journey. I'm keen to kind of understand a bit more how you actually started to implement it and some of the practical challenges no doubt you came across. But just wanted to clarify. So someone brings back a garment, and what's the process? You or your team look at it and assess whether it's suitable for resale, and they get a credit.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So they bring it back into store at this stage. We're about to launch online, TBC. And so they leave it there. We take their details, and then a team member assesses that garment, checks if it's suitable for resale, or not. And then if it's or not, it's because it hasn't been cleaned, or it's got or something's not perfect. Perfect about it. And at that stage, we give the customer an option to pick up the ones which we can't resell, or we will donate that into communities that we're working with to repair. And then, or if it can't be repaired, we're working with an organisation that will recycle that fabric. So we're looking at all parts. Ideally, we are able to resell, and I think it's about 90% of garments that we take that people are bringing in just go straight into that system.
Wow.
And then there's about 10% that we're that are unable to go straight into the resale market.
I just want to say how much I love the application of circular economy thinking you're putting to this. So you're thinking first about reusing or reselling the garment, keep it at its highest value for as long as possible, and then when it's not, you're thinking about redistributing it or gifting it away to other people. And then if you still can't do that, you're looking to recycle. So that kind of chain of events to look to keep the garment and the materials in the economy for as long as possible and at their highest value for as long as possible. You're not just going, yep, we can resell it, or no, we can't, take it back, go away. You're still taking responsibility, that ownership for that, and looking for other solutions as it kind of goes down that hierarchy of quality, I guess, and reusability. What I just think is fantastic.
Thank you.
So I want to go back then to the journey. So you sort of talked about the concept came up. It made a lot of sense in terms of the business side of it, and you finding out that some of these garments were being worn 8 times or more, and it really fit with your business's ethos and values. So conceptually sounds great, but there's a long journey to go, a lot of obstacles to overcome to actually bring that to market. So can you tell us a bit about that, and can you also tell us a bit about who you sort of engaged within your team? Like, was it designers, was it marketers, was it sales, was it everyone to kind of bring this to life?
Yeah. I mean, as you say, the concept is relatively simple. How can you make something well and then get it back in the system? Then how do you do that? And I think entrepreneurs and business owners are guilty of oversimplifying things because they just want things to happen. And then, but practically, what we found is that there's many stakeholders in the business you have to engage with to make it part of their story, and for them to be able to contribute in a way, because they are part of that circle as well. The whole manufacturing process and getting out to customers is similar to the journey of a garment that's going out to customers. And so we engaged right across the team. We discussed the idea, and so that's our product team, our merchandise team, our retail team, our brand and marketing team, and our digital team. And we said, hey, we've got this idea. We really want to take back our garments and bedding, and sell them again, which everyone was really excited about. As we started to go through it, the main things that came up were really logistical. Who could we offer this to? How could we test it? How much would we get back? What was the price scenario? What was what were customers expecting? And how that then related into the system. So if we're taking clothes back and we had clothes coming across the counter, where would we store those clothes? Who would check those clothes? What would the communication be back to the customer? How could we build it with the least resistance so that the customer experience, which is one of the key things for us, is as frictionless as possible, and as inspiring for them so it makes them want to do it. Because there's two hurdles for us. Was how do we do it logistically, and then how do we inspire customers to be part of this program? Because really we needed the stakeholders in the business to collaborate, but then also collaborate with the customers for them to buy into that idea, and see it as purposeful and having value for them.
Because I guess it's quite a change for the customer, right? Because for decades we buy our clothes, and then when they get too small, in the case of children, or damaged, or you don't want them anymore, you typically then just offer them to a friend or take them to the local op shop, as we call them here in New Zealand, or second-hand store. And so that you're really asking them to change that behavior, right? And has that been a struggle? Have you had learnings of how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of returns that we're getting back is not as high as what I was imagining. I saw some international stats, and they were saying something like Patagonia, which I hold in high regard, was 2%. I'm like, that can't be right. And then something I didn't mention as part of this journey, we started working with this couple in New Jersey who started a circular business in the States before us using Nature Baby. And probably if I was to be honest, that's kind of what really kicked us in, along with our own customer stories. And when we're going through that, process, we were trying to work out how much we could take back, and the couple in New Jersey, they're going, we're getting about 8%. So I'm like, okay, 8%, we're going to take that into 12% because we've got stores, we've got customers, they'll bring it back. I think we're at 1.5. And that's surprising, and I think that's up to us. That's on us and how we market that more, both in store and around.
Sorry, David, can I just ask? That's 1.5% of your sales, total sales a month. So of the garments you sell, 1.5% are coming back to stores. And so are you including online sales as well there?
No.
Okay.
No,
so these
just what's relative.
1.5% of the clothes sold from the stores, they can then return them to.
Yeah. Which is okay, but kind of not good enough, because there's so many clothes there that can come back in. And I think, do customers have a challenge with it? I don't think so, because we're handing products on. We there's a massive market on Facebook for buy and sell. I think it's just behavior, and it's picking up. So each month we get a little bit more and a little bit more. We haven't been able to market it widely because we haven't taken it back online, and so we've just been working out the logistical scenario of doing that. So once we have that, then we can broadcast it in full, and make it part of a full program. So over here in Balmain and in Sydney, Australia, we have a space where we can hold stock. So this will be a DC unit for processing secondhand product.
Right. So you're now designing it into your new stores.
Yeah. And really, if I was to be honest, this is a learning phase for us, because the big dream is to have a standalone Nature Baby community store that is all pre-loved. And I think once you have that, it just becomes part of a common language of it's just the way it is. We've looked at other stores in Portland in the US. They have chain stores that are pre-loved. People get about 50% of their baby products from pre-loved stores, and I think there's what are you making? How are you making so it can be circular? But it's what are you creating for customers that they can tangibly engage with, both from a physical way, but also in a psychological and emotional way to make that feel right. And as humans, we're such creatures of habit. We know that we reuse things all the time, but we also are so tied into buying new, and it's just human nature that it's that adjustment period.
Yeah, just a bit of self-reflection here is the father of a 5.5-year-old. I've gone through that journey with her, and children's clothes are just the perfect product for what you're doing, right? Because as you sort of touched on earlier, those first few months they hardly do anything to them, right? They might get a bit of spew on it, maybe a bit of poo. You can wash that out. Otherwise they keep their integrity and their quality, versus say adults' clothes, especially once you get to our age, we generally wear our clothes to they're falling off us, right? So I think it's such a good product to be doing that for. And then also, on the other thing about sort of being a parent that I reflect on is that sense of pressure, nervousness, and craziness that you're thinking, oh God, this human that I'm trying to keep alive and look after, and you feel like you need the best thing for them, and all you kind of do is look at what other friends have done and other people have kind of done, and so often it is that kind of buying new. So just reflect, or coming back to that point you made about changing people's behaviours, it's not going to happen overnight, is it? It is going to be the slow kind of thing, and people go, oh look, don't go buying brand new for a child, or maybe get a couple of brand new things, that's really nice, but also get a bunch of these worn again stuff, because you're going to give them back within 6 months, 3 months, and you don't. Otherwise, it's going to sit piled up in your attic or your storage space. there really is that change, as you said, that change of thinking and that change of behaviour from people, and that will take time to feed through, right? And you'll get those early adopters who will be super keen, and then I guess the thing about children again is people stop having children after a period of time, and then you need them to then pass the word on to the next potential customer for you. Anyway, I really want to just ask about the impacts that it's had for you. So really interested in, we talked a bit about the percentage of that's coming back, but also like, has it had any impacts on the team, both positive and negative, like in terms of workload and having to train people how to do the analysis of them, but also brand kind of, what's the word, connectivity is not the word I want, but you know what I'm trying to say with your customers, and also design, like are you learning that certain things are failing in terms of your designs, maybe buttons are falling off and that's impacting the design team? What are some of the key impacts?
I mean, right the way through the business, introduce an idea like this, and the first thing that happens is it's another thing for people to do. Everyone's very much into it, and it's the reason why a lot of people are working for Nature Baby, because they buy into the values and vision. But we're not only asking those team members to design, create, and sell. We're now asking them to take back, market, and resell. So there's an amount of enthusiasm and pride, I think, mixed with a level of the reality of the workload, and I'm very conscious of that, because I get so excited about things, and so do they, and so we look at how we manage that. But I think the overarching feeling is one of pride that the products that the business makes can go out and come back, and that people love them and love doing that. So it really bolsters the purpose of Nature Baby and who we are, although we didn't set out to be a circular business as such in the beginning. It was inherently so, just in the practices that we've done that logically carried through. And then from a customer and brand perspective, all of the one again pieces we do get the highest engagement on our socials. So from what we see, that's what people care about the most. What they then buy into, because humans are funny creatures, is not necessarily the same thing that they engage with socially, but the desire is there. And so it's really interesting to see, and I think it just gives you real hope in humanity that people have pride in doing these things, and people really want to engage at this level and love that it's happening.
And I think I just love that businesses are bringing these solutions to the table, right? Like being working in sustainability all this time, you hear people all the time in my person, I say, why don't businesses do that? Why don't businesses do this? And conceptually, yeah, absolutely, Warn Again is obvious, but there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. There's a lot of considerations you've got to make as a business to think how that's practically going to work. And you've shared quite a bit of that today in terms of the workload, the competing kind of priorities, all these, I think, the change in behaviour, the communications, the logistics that have to be thought through. It's not as easy as just pushing a button. So I just really love that you've taken on the challenge and you've worked through it, and you've got it to where it is now, because lots of other businesses don't do it because it's too hard. They can't be bothered. They're busy just focusing on maximizing their profit from what they do every day. They don't really want to innovate or look at these these circular kind of solutions. So I think you should feel pretty well, I definitely feel very, very happy that, business leaders like yourself and businesses like Nature Baby are trying, right? And you sort of talked about right at the start that this is a pilot, you are in a learning phase, but also you've talked about how you're building it into your new site. So it's obviously a learning phase and all that, but you're still seeing it as part of the future of Nature Baby. So to that point, can you tell us a bit about, last couple of questions, is just tell us about the future of this program of Worn Again, and how you see that into the months and years ahead.
Yeah, well, I think it's carrying it forward and building on the ideas of how customers can engage with it. Part of our challenge has been we're taking back, but people don't have the visibility of where we're reselling. And so we've been testing out where we've been reselling at an outlet market that we run each year in New Zealand and Australia, and then which had a very, very high uptake in terms of the number of garments that people were buying.
Right.
People loving seeing old prints that they'd seen before in other campaigns coming back. So almost like these characters that had this new life, that had this character back in their memory that they were buying into. And then we're trying it in our Greyland store, which is my local neighbourhood, where they have a market day up there.
Yeah.
Which I believe I've seen you at as well, Nick.
Yeah.
And so we put our racks out, and we will sell our Worn Again clothing items. And so the last one that we did up there, I did with my youngest daughter, really to find out and work with her. She's now 18. And the customers, and see who was coming back and why they were coming back and what they were into.
Right.
And it was really heartening. One, the kids that are coming through, they are buying mostly secondhand anyway. They're not as interested in new. They're interested in things that last a long time and are culturally interesting. And so that market's about to come through. So from a purely selfish business side, there's massive commercial gain in there.
Yeah. Right.
The customers coming back, they just love the fact that they could, understand what new looked like and what pre-loved looked like, and kind of what the differences were, which is not a lot, and how much value that there is in there. So we're doing these tests to understand what market's coming through, what the current market wants now. And the next stages after this, we'll build the online capacity. We won't sell online, but we'll take it back online, so that we can engage with more and more of our customers. And so those stocks will start to build, and we'll be having events that will sell pre-loved Nature Baby. But the ultimate dream is to have a Nature Baby store that is fully pre-loved. And sort of, I imagine this world in this store in Balmain that we're doing, all of our stores, if people have come to them, they have these community kitchens. This one, we're putting a community garden in it as this idea of growth and renewal. In the outlet stores, we'll be looking at things like, laundries. How do we relook at these community and as well as crossover domestic spaces that are these, ideas and support mechanisms for living in a world a little bit more gently, and a little bit more in a connected way, which is kind of how we started the business. And if you kind of approach things in that way, everything works out.
Awesome. That's a pretty good place probably to leave it, really. Jacob, fantastic to talk to you, and thank you so much for what you're doing. I feel like we could talk to you about this all day, but super mindful of us trying to keep to our 20-minute timeline for the listeners who are busy and got other things to do. Thank you very, very much from Go Well, and from me for your time today. And thank you so much, as I said before, for doing this and taking this challenge on and being a leader in this space, because, gosh, we need more of it.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Nick, and thanks for you, the team, and everyone who's supporting this campaign that we're running.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
All right, see ya. Bye.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Progress in Practice. A big thank you to Jacob for his time and for talking so openly about Nature Baby's Worn Again program. Really interesting to hear from him what it took to get it off the ground, the thinking that went in behind it, how it actually works in practice, and where they want to take it from here. What struck me most in this conversation is how straightforward the idea is at its heart. Take back clothes, give them a second life, keep them out of landfill. But, as with most of these things, there's a lot more thought and effort and learnings that go into it to make it actually work. Really appreciated how Jacob was so open about it, and honest with the challenges that they faced. For me, Warn Again is the kind of initiative that points to what's possible when a business genuinely commits to closing the loop on what it produces. It's not perfect, and I don't think Jacob would claim that it is, but it's real and it's happening and it's making a positive impact, and that matters. Hey, if this has sparked any curiosity for you, head to Nature Baby website and take a look for more information about their amazing business they are, and also about their Warn Again program. And if you're wanting to know more about Go Well Consulting or any of the themes that we've explored tonight, you can go to our website or reach out and get in touch. All the links should be below wherever you're watching or listening to this. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, go well. Mā te wā.